Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the HR and Payroll 2.0 podcast. I'm Pete Tiliakos, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Pete. And I think folks are going to learn real soon that this is the Sunday after a whirlwind week at the Payroll Congress, which you have dubbed the
Super Bowl of Payroll. Yeah, I was going to say this
go.
is our 43rd annual Payroll Congress episode, debrief episode, I guess is what I would call it. So you're right. It is the Sunday after. I'm still tired. Yesterday, I must have taken 3 naps. I just got my voice back yesterday afternoon. Man, I was tired. I don't know about you, but I Payconned so hard.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
It was a whirlwind. And, I think folks are really getting the hang of just being there and realizing, I can meet all these people that I haven't known in person. I've maybe known and want to connect with. And it felt like there was more of that energy than ever before.
Yeah. The Super Bowl of Payroll really brought out the celebrities this year. We had folks come from across the pond. Sylvia Kay came over. I saw Anne-Marie V. Obviously, she lives in the U.S. Max was here. We saw, who else? Ian Giles was there. Just everyone you can imagine. So welcome to anyone that was there for the first time. But yeah, a lot of folks came out that I just didn't even realize would be there. So it was really a fantastic week.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if you've got caught up on posting pics. It was, felt like Thursday and Friday was just the picture brigade. I think I've got one more left of just kind of folks that are advisors or influencers, right? Not practitioners and not providers, but the folks who are the intermediaries. And so I'll get caught up on that hopefully before Monday.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I was out there cranking them out in the airport and on the planes and in between, just resting up. My brain was just so fried, I couldn't really do much else anyway. So I was trying to share that. And Julie, I thought it'd be cool if we could just kind of talk about our experiences each and then maybe just trade notes on what we saw. And I saw some really cool trends I'd love to talk about that are lining up with what my research says. It's lining up with all the things I've been hoping we would be talking about by now and should have been talking about probably 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I thought we could just do that and just see what we thought.
Good. All right. Well, I know you got there before I did. I didn't arrive until Tuesday night, so you probably got an extra day in on me. I don't know if you're thinking chronologically, but do you want to give it a start since I know you were there first?
Yeah, I got there Monday morning. I'm a former Deloitte consultant, so I'm first in, first out. You know what I mean? That's that's still my thing. But I came in. No, it was great. I came in early. And, like any Paycon, as soon as you hit the door, the hugs start flying, man. You can't make it too far. I think I hit the lobby and I ran into Max and Ian. And the next thing you know, Ian and I were in an Uber on the way over to one of my favorite restaurants over in my old stomping grounds, my old haunts, I guess you could say, over in the celebration area where I used to work for the Walt Disney Company. And I had lunch there at the Cuban restaurant, the Columbia. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, man, I didn't even get my foot in the door and we were already out the door again on the way having payroll talk. So
hey, you must really love that place because you actually suggested it for Thursday and then we ended up doing other things and hanging around there. So
I sent I sent some money their way, man. Shout out Columbia. I love that place. It's a historical landmark, I believe, in Florida now. It's one of the oldest restaurants, but one of my favorites. But anyway, the point is like just the minute you get there to the minute that you get on the plane going home Friday, it's all payroll all the time. And it was wonderful. It was the most, just the most energy and the most just positivity that I think I've seen in the payroll space in a very, very long time. So I got a lot to unpack there on that.
Great event. It was really one of the best, I think, of the payroll congresses that we've been to.
Yeah. And the people made it. The people is what made it such a big deal. I mean, I had so many great conversations between practitioners and lots of clients of mine were there. Many clients of mine were there. So we had lots of conversations that way. And then I just got to talk to some folks that are kind of in between that I don't talk to all the time, but they're doing cool stuff. And just saw a lot of stuff I want to share. So special week for me, honestly, being down the road from where I used to do this stuff and accomplish some of the things that some folks are still trying to accomplish. So full circle week for me, for sure.
There you go. Yeah. Oh no, he's getting nostalgic.
Well, it was. I mean, I a lot of people may not know, but right down the road, like literally 3 miles is if you go west down I-4 is Celebration, Florida. It's actually a city. Disney actually engineered that city, and I think they've sold it off. But it's a beautiful place. It's a live, work, play kind of a community. So there's restaurants and businesses and there's I think there's a couple of hotels there, the Celebration Hotel. But in there's a lot of corporate complexes and the Disney Shared Service Center was in there for finance and HR. I think the cruise lines were in there at one point. Some of the real estate groups, a lot of the admin sort of stuff are kind of annexed out there. So as corporate employees, we weren't really on the property. We were out in Celebration and reporting out to Burbank. But it was just weird, just being miles away. I helped run payroll and lead payroll and transform payroll. And then 24 years later, I'm in a room that I used to drive by and maybe probably go have lunch at once in a while, where I've been influencing and bringing together people doing it and the leaders that are leading it with the folks that are building it. And it just, it was very rewarding for me personally. So it was a pretty cool week to have it there.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good. Why don't we dig into a little bit of content? I'll start with the, as you know, last year, because you and I co-hosted and kicked it off, Pay started an executive summit track. For leaders, and it drew some of the friends that we've met together on the podcast, and a host of new leaders listening to that track. I think it was a good session. It drew, I'm just going to guess, maybe 80-ish or so folks there. And we had a number of fireside chat type conversations, and a very energetic speaker named Pegeen, who really motivated folks talking. Have you seen her before?
Oh yeah, she's a ball of energy, man. She is.
She's got a military background too.
Yeah. If she don't get you fired up, I don't know what will.
Exactly. So, she has an exercise that she does trying to encourage people to jump into their presence, their executive presence. And when 60 seconds, you have to choose, from some cards that have some words that just resonate for you. And I have to say, Pete, you made my life so much easier. One of the cards had legend on it.
Oh, good.
Well, Pete gave me this one, and I do.
That's right.
So I only had to choose one extra card.
Very cool.
And that got folks really fired up. She's a really energized speaker. And, I do want to shout out to Strata. Strata's been the sponsor for that executive summit. They're a terrific, fabulous sponsor for that particular event. Perfect. And I think it was really enjoyed by all. Very interactive. And I would just give some highlights. At the close of the session, we were in some breakout tables, and, people were asked about the things that struck them, or, what they learned, or what they were afraid of, or what they, what they were hoping for in the coming years. And, some of the anxiety causers, probably the one we heard the most was just 5 generations in the workplace. It's to navigate and a lot to do. And the things that folks really enjoyed hearing were AI, especially for compliance. There was a lot of conversation about what you do with that. And the idea that you have to unlearn some things in order to relearn, which I think was really actually in
which
in
payroll. Which let's be honest, payroll above all else has been really, they're so adaptable. They've done this for decades. This won't be an issue for that part. But I heard that too.
Yeah, and some cool ideas, which I'm going to mention to you, because I think maybe we'll get to them on our show long before the next Payroll Congress. But one suggestion that I heard that really resonated with me was having a conversation that brought the CEO, CHRO, and CFO together to talk about payroll. And, we sit right in the middle of that. So I thought that was kind of cool. Building the business case became a topic again. I think you and I did one of our very earliest sessions was on building the business case. Maybe we ought to dust that off again and have a fresh conversation around there. And I did hear a lot of leaders saying they felt less skepticism about AI this year, taking jobs away or doing some wholesale, things like that, and a lot more embracing interest in it, curiosity about how it can help with return to office and really impact payroll. And so just a different tone around AI and the opportunities for AI. So
I want to talk about the executive thing here, because I have a lot of thoughts on this coming out of this conference. So obviously, as you know, Jason Lee of Chime presented quite a few. I had a breakfast on Tuesday, I think it was. He also had a presentation with me that we replicated our virtual presentation we did on the Chief Payroll Officer and why that's time.
30 by 2030, right?
30 by 30, that's right.
30
And
by
look,
30?
what I think is really exciting about this is the way that he presents that is to talk about how in the early 80s, how few, if any, the concept actually was new of the CFO. And now it's in every company, right? Yeah. So just talking about what drove that and the demand there and why the importance and criticality has come around for that. And so I think there is, whether we make it to the C-suite or not, it's not, doesn't really actually matter.
Yeah, that's not the point, right?
The point is, how are we going to engage payroll and start talking about their leaders, right? And bringing their leaders to the table to do things proactively and strategically. What gives me a lot of hope, Julie, is I met, and I'm working on getting them on the show. I met at least two incredibly senior executives. One, a senior vice president of payroll workforce strategy. To just digest that title for a minute, right? Senior vice president of payroll workforce strategy. That's to me is an unheard of. That's an unheard of title. Yeah. And she's going to be on our show. She's coming on our show. We're going to work on that. She was on The Source by Daily Pay, where I spent many of my hours. I missed the invite to the exec summit this year, but I don't know that I could have made it.
I don't think so.
So many
hustling.
Yeah. Shout out to Daily Pay, man. They really rolled out the Bentley of booths for us. It was very magical. It had the sort of a Disney theme to it with the castle and whatever, but the podcast booth was just amazing. And anyway, back to this. Senior Vice President of Payroll Workforce Strategy. And when you listen to what she's doing in her company and how they're using data and how they're partnering with the business and how they're at the table, like they're not trying to get a seat, they have a seat. And they are a very, very prominent seat. And they're not stopping there. They have very, very high ambitions for what they want to do with payroll. And I heard that with a couple of other folks that were maybe not senior vice presidents, but were in very high level director level roles, I think, or something along that lines. But the point is here that we are making progress in this regards, that we are bringing the payroll voice is going upward into the C-suite. Yeah. And that's all we need. We don't have to be sitting there. We just got to get our voice upward. And I think that's actually happening. And I love that.
More than the voice, it's our data, right? It's our insights that we have to get upward. And it's our voice that carries those because we're the ones that have it. So
yeah. And let me tell you this, Julie, this is really exciting. So along the lines of my 5 pillars, the modern pay experience, a couple of folks I talked to are reporting now, not in HR, not in finance, but actually directly to total rewards.
Yeah.
Which I love.
So I have seen that quite a bit as well.
Benefits, comp,
on
payroll,
our
all together.
Side, we see the benefits, comp, and then payroll is the next thing. Sometimes mobility fits in there as well, depending.
Makes a lot more sense than just being lost in the HR ocean or lost in the finance ocean. And neither of those two places are necessarily good at leading payroll or working with payroll, I feel. It's all still very arm's length. But this sounds much more, when you listen to these folks and you peel it back, it's not just, hey, we're in the same cubes. Right? They're working together very closely in that pay experience, total rewards regard, where everything is under one umbrella and they're working in synergy. And I think that's just really cool. Yeah. So I love that. I love that path. I think that's a perfect home for payroll.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I know I did see some of your follow-ups on getting something scheduled. And so I know you're pretty dogged about that. And I saw some responses also. Looks like they're excited. So there'll be more of that to come for sure.
You know, I want to pivot off that and talk the AI thing for a minute. I will tell you this, and I thought it was really refreshing. I didn't find that now go around the room, everybody, it was a who's who, right? I mean, we saw some new vendors there that hadn't been there before. I'm very proud to say that I nudged iSolve. Shout out to iSolve for showing up. They've been in the payroll game for a long time. Great to see them at their first PayCon. BDO, one of my other clients, was there first time. Well. That was a good one. But one of the things I thought was interesting, and this was said to me multiple times, is that, when I've gone to many of the HR events this year, and it is just, they're ramming the AI right down your throat, right? When you walk in, it wasn't like that here. That wasn't the first thing we were talking about in any of these booths.
That's right.
And I think here's a great example. I was talking to the guys at BDO, and they were now, if you know BDO, 5th largest accounting firm in the world, boots on the ground in every country. Like, I would argue they have probably one of the most organic payroll, accounting, and compliance capabilities in country of any of the broad global solutions, right? And a global payroll provider, of course. But here's the thing. They're having conversations with their clients about automation and AI and augmentation. But what they want to really talk about that is that being table stakes. And but let's talk about the customer experience and the expertise and the employee experience and the parts that are very unique to localized expertise and localized capabilities. And that, I think, is what makes me really happy, because that means that the vendors, I mean, look, some people argue that maybe some of global payroll is becoming just a platform, right? It's just becoming middleware. But I disagree, right? I disagree. If you have a services capability with that, you're bringing a value-added, a tech-enabled service that is activating that service in a technology way that gives you the ability to productize and bring those expertise to your customers' fingertips. I still think that's the future. I think the people, right? That's the point I'm trying to make here. The BDO buyer was saying that they were saying to me is looking to talk about the people doing the work. The tech is table stakes, and that's what I hope we keep our eye on. It's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I think you raise a good point. I venture to say I'm anticipating that we're still going to see at events like HR Tech in the fall a lot of flag waving and hallyu about about AI leading, as opposed to how has it become a tool and an enabler and an integral part of the end-to-end delivery of whatever it is that is being embedded in. But I guess remains to be seen, right?
Yep.
We have
and
6 months to cross that bridge.
Keep in mind, there are multiple different flavors of payroll being proliferated. There's payroll with HCM, which is where you're going to get the enterprise grade.
Right.
Obviously, at Workday already out there with agentic for payroll, right? UKG working closely with Google, SAP way ahead, right?
Yep.
The others are going to catch up, right? The pure play payrolls are going to catch up, but I think they've got to move in a little bit more cautious direction. And I look, let's be honest here. If you think about any of the technologies in the marketplace that payroll is engaging, right? Let's take example earned wage access. Earned wage access has still got an uphill slog to get past the payroll leaders of the world. That is the biggest obstacle to earned wage access, is the payroll leaders guarding the organization as they should. They're de-risking. I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle for AI is going to be trust. Everyone's going to have to trust, and payroll of all places is going to have a lot more trust. So I actually think payroll is going to be a little slower in adopting, right? Oh, as they always have for many, many reasons, not just payroll's fault. The leadership sometimes doesn't jump right in on the first thing innovation-wise for payroll. We still got some folks not on cloud yet. So I just think it's going to be a little slower. And I just like that there's a paced movement in the industry and it's not being sort of beat over your head, is my point.
Yeah,
Did you get that sense?
And in fact, remember, it wasn't all that long ago that RPA, made this humongous splash, and it was everywhere, and it is a great enabler. But then there are ownership issues, there's governance issues, there's
data,
security and access, issues, and so there are a lot of things to put in place to really do it big scale. So and that's precisely why a lot of clients or HR or payroll folks will lean into the providers to do that for them, right?
They should.
They have to solve that.
The providers this is their business. They're innovating by design. They're innovating. They're thinking about payroll all the time. It's their product, and that's what I think people got to remember. We've emphasized this on this show, and I've seen it in my research for years now. You can't necessarily go out and air quotes outsource. You shouldn't be outsourcing. You should be looking for managed service partners, in my opinion. Outsourcing to me sounds very lift and shift and very past. I think you've got to be looking for a tech-enabled managed services partner. And that's going to mean buying into some innovation. And sometimes that's more expensive than what you have, because what you have is from another decade of time. It doesn't support the future. So,
and yet it might get you somewhere that you can't get by yourself, just because trying to do all of that internally in your organization on your own is an awful lot of effort. And the providers are investing in that.
So Julie, I want to ask you this. I had a lot of global questions, a lot of global conversations, a lot of merging, existing, but just thinking about that, what did you see on the global front that way?
Oh, for sure. And I wonder if part of that is just that this event had a big draw of folks that are actively in that space. And so that always tends to pump up the needle a little bit on the conversations about global. But also, just all the different ways that people are trying to work their way into global. There's
Or finding
organizational
their way there.
politics, right?
Yeah.
There's, you don't always start global with global. Sometimes you start global with, global starts oftentimes as the
Yeah.
Americas,
Yeah.
and just putting the US, North America, and LATAM together. And so the different flavors of that are what have always
Yeah.
drawn me to global payroll and why I've just loved being in that environment.
Yeah.
And I do think the return to office, we feel like it's been a while since COVID, but quite frankly, companies are still finding workers that have, kind of flown the coop,
Yeah.
decided their working room someplace else,
Yeah.
and are trying to
They're in
figure
an
out how the
RV.
hell
They're in an RV driving around.
yeah, what do
Yeah.
I do? Where is my person?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's
Well, hey,
really a thing.
Hey, I'm Katie Van Horn.
And I'm Jackie Clayton.
We're your hosts of the Inclusive AF podcast, where we take on DEI, leadership, and HR without all the corporate fluff.
That's right. We've got decades of experience, a lot of opinions, and zero tolerance for performative anything.
Every week, we dig into what it really takes to build inclusive workplaces with honesty, strategy, and a few side eyes.
We'll talk about the tough stuff, power dynamics, privilege, what's broken in the system, and how we can all do better.
And don't worry, it's not all heavy. We bring receipts, laughs, and real talk from people actually doing the work.
Think of it as your weekly dose of truth, tips, and a little tea to help you lead with intention and show up for your people.
So if you're ready to push past the buzzwords and get into the actual work of inclusion,
you're in the right place. So subscribe to the Inclusive AF podcast.
New episodes drop every week.
Catch us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll be here breaking it down one inclusive convo at a time.
For what it's worth, I had a lot of conversations, and I'll tell you this. So I was standing at the, they do like a little cocktail party at like the first night, like an icebreaker, but it's sort of in the booth. It's kind of like trick-or-treating.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was hanging out with eBerry or one of the cross-border guys, and I stood there for a little while, maybe 15 or so minutes talking to them. And I took note of how many folks walked up and what they said. And I think about 5 people from 5 different companies or so walked up. About 2 of them were already global out of 5. And I think one was, we're going to be there in the next 18 months kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So the majority of my sample were global. Now, that was a global provider, so that could have attracted them. It's just a little skewed. But still, I think that probably is indicative of what you might find is about a quarter-ish of folks are probably global at the conference. So this bodes the question, Julie. And I asked this of Jason Davenport, who's been on the show, a friend of the show, the head of the CIPP over in the UK, basically like the payroll org of
the payroll org
UK.
of Europe or the UK. Yeah.
Right. Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals, I believe it is. So I asked Jason, I said, Jason, we've got the TAPs, we've got the APA out, a couple things out in Australia. We've got Ireland, we've got South Africa. We've certainly got the national payroll, whatever, in Canada.
Yes.
The question is it time for some sort of global body, some sort of consortium that brings all of you together under a single standard or some sort of single, I don't know. We just sort of talked about that. What are your thoughts on that, Julie? You think it's time?
Yeah, well, I mean, because
everybody's got a little something, but not everybody's got nobody's in charge overall,
I do feel like, boy, wouldn't it be great? And, that sort of collaboration seems to be happening organically with Jason here and, and a number of
He works closely with the
folks.
payroll org. Yeah.
And I know that you and I are both, just very interested in, been following along because we've had, we've had we've had Kieran on and we've had Jason on and we've had the global payroll geeks, there's
a lot of efforts going on out there.
So there are lots of efforts. But I also think that there will be a challenge. I think collaboration would be great, but each of those organizations is taking on kind of a large bite, right? Because payroll is so very local and so very global. And so each one, I imagine, might find a different avenue or a different path. Like Australia and Kieran, they feel like the furthest along, if you ask me, in many ways.
Yeah, they've got a little bit different mission, I guess you could say, and a little bit different product. But I would agree. And the rest are really largely more about education. But I just wonder if we need to bring if that makes sense or if that will happen someday. If we could,
sure.
I'm sure money is going to be part of the problem for that, but it would be good. I think it would be it might be beneficial to the overall profession to have a governing body. Because like you think about something like, say, the PEO, right? They've got the NAPEO. Or, now I guess you could say, there's a couple of consortiums popping up for EOR, which again, it just depends on who gets involved. But I'd love to see that. I'd love to see if all the payroll groups could come together and make one sort of thing. It would be really cool. Or just have one governing rule set,
What I'd like to see that might be maybe a pragmatic or a tactical way for some of those dots to be connected would be things that we are seeing more and more of, like I saw just coming out of payroll, right? Scholarships, educational scholarships for folks that want to get into payroll. The analytics course that's
I want to
new,
get some
right?
veterans into that. I'd love to figure that out.
The analytics course series, right? That's just come up, and so as each group is kind of tackling, and taking its own unique approach, they do develop resources.
Yeah.
That I think if we could get those, bring those to a community or to a consortium might be really helpful in just, spreading the wealth and everybody advancing and using whatever it is that they've figured out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what else, Julie? Well, okay, I'll ask you a fun question. Let's have a fun one here. Do you get any good, exciting swag that you're proud of you picked up along the week? I got some great socks. Shout out to Payslip and Chime, and I think Deal. I didn't get some of the nude colors at Deal, but I have some old ones. So I always love a good pair of socks, man. So shout out to the teams that do socks.
I know. Those seem more oriented toward the guys.
I love the socks.
I guess there's no reason. I've never tried wearing the socks I brought
Come
home.
on, Julie. They're great quality socks. Gartner actually has one magic quadrant that's worth reading. I wouldn't say any of them are magical, but in this case, this one is. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to Gartner, man. They're good guys. But they have a magic quadrant at HR Tech on the socks. And I think Payslip is one year, and I think someone else won that I know of. But they do it. You ever seen that? They do a quadrant just on the socks.
No, I've never seen that. And is it supposed to be on the design or the quality?
I think it's probably a magic, probably a little bit of both, right? Quality, design, maybe effect, who knows?
I have to confess,
yeah.
my kids have grown now, so that's where the tchotchkes came in, really, right?
Oh, you used to take that crap home and give it to you, yeah.
And I'm always looking for good ideas because, as you know, there are places where we might do our own booths and things, and so whenever somebody gets a good idea, I couldn't help because, I'm kind of back and forth with Florida. Strata had the cutest little alligator and in the little stuffed toys where you fish for your shirt or your whatever your prize is.
That's
so
right.
I did bring home a Strata alligator.
Okay.
And that was probably as much, just felt Florida-y to me.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite.
I went socks. I also I always bring home a CloudPay animal. They have a very nice Ravens. I can't remember the name of the brand. It's Ravens something or other. They always have these really nice.
Are you pointing to something? Can you bring it over here?
I don't know if you could see them. I don't think you can see them over there hanging maybe, but there's a bunch of CloudPay stuff hanging over there. Monkeys and giraffes and all sorts. I always bring those home. They always give me one of those. So I stick one of those over there. Just like I have rugby balls from Safeguard over the years. I've got probably about 4 or 5 Safeguard worldwide and Safeguard global rugby balls. I've got my office is somewhat of a global payroll and HCM technology time machine here. We've got ultimate software items from past. We've got you name it. Qualtrics doesn't exist anymore. There's a lot of stuff out there that's in my office.
There you go.
Kind
I will say I brought Peggine's little cards. I told you they were the cards.
I did.
I brought those home because it was a fun exercise. It did make me think out.
Yes.
Make me.
She's full of energy, man. I gave her a fist bump in the hallway. She's kind of a fixture at Payroll Org, I believe, every year. Her and Miss Pat. Pat teaches the little lady from Britain that teaches the speech. She's great coach, man. She's something else. Right. But anyway. So what else, Julie? You gave a presentation over there with the Payroll Org breakouts.
I did. So this is actually, I have to say, it was at first I was like, oh man, I did the same topic that I did last year, and I wasn't sure how to feel about that. Right?
Yeah.
I'm used to bringing something new and fresh.
It's always timely.
But honestly, I really have come to love the topic that I've done twice now about building relationships across HR, payroll, and finance. And truthfully,
It's a key
not
part of the
only
Payroll Profession Confidence Index. So I'll actually have a little bit of extra new data for you this year if you'd like.
Oh, good,
So,
because I knew yours wasn't quite out. I still have your slide about executive stakeholder,
but a critical
sponsorship in there.
piece of what I think success in payroll is going to look like.
And, I have to confess, besides starting some of the conversation about where does payroll sit and with who and how, what message it sends, how it impacts, the way that your operations run, I'm really quite fond of the back half of that session where I spend some time talking about skills, talking about how payroll is no longer, the historical bookkeeper, even though it fits there in the taxonomy sometimes for your job's taxonomy. And quite a bit about, some of the trends that you and I have espoused since we started this podcast on, the payroll profession really becoming quite an intricate environment and being perfect for Gen Zs, perfect for folks who have navigated a career across all of the things that touch payroll. And that's become one of my favorite things to talk about as we do this show and others. So I've worked that into my topic, and I think it really resonates with people. They're really looking for that.
Along that lines, Julie, that's a great point. I mean, we talked about this, remember, with Bart Venderstorm on his book around influence, right? This is a big part of the job is going to be influence. And we all have to learn some of those big four kind of, I go back to that, right? Consultative, sales, negotiation, getting people to buy into a case and buy into a purpose and a vision. By the way, that's another thing. I was hearing a lot more payroll visions this week. Shout out to those who I talked to that told me they're on transformation path and they have a vision. Danny Schultz. Danny Schultz over at Kohler. Nice vision.
Yeah, I spent
great vision. We're gonna get him on at some point as well. But let me tell you something that I thought was pretty interesting. I learned, to tell you the truth, I thought was phenomenal advice. I did not think of this. So Jason Lee and I gave our presentation, as I mentioned. It was really a live presentation of the virtual one we did on the Chief Payroll Officer, why it's time, why we think it's ready, and how do you actually get there. One of the things that Jason talked to the audience about, and if you guys don't know Jason Lee is the founder of Daily Pay. He's the new founder of Salt Labs, which became Chime Workplace as part of Chime Enterprise. Very quickly was acquired, I think within about a year or so of it being launched. Brilliant guy, right? Brilliant marketer, brilliant executive, very good at connecting the dots on what's going to happen in the world, fintech-wise, and bring it to the workplace. He had an outstanding piece of advice to the payroll leaders. He said, listen, it's not enough to just come and be an expert at payroll. And we talked about the whole concept of payroll being business leaders, right? And the fact that they've got to come and they've got to start leading their organizations by way of their data and their expertise. But he gave a great suggestion in that he said, look, in addition to being the experts that you already are with payroll, in addition to having that data and insight to back that up and having great ideas around that, it helps to curate a point of view, particularly with data too, on something that is not payroll, that you're not known for, but adjacent and influential to what you can be known for. So I thought that was really, really, really smart to say, stretch out a little bit, right? Maybe look beyond the 50-mile radius of payroll and say, what else, or what else? And I think you have that opportunity when you think about my point about, when I say payroll influences everything, the truth in that is all roads lead to payroll. And you actually have a very rich understanding of the backwards of that upward to what everyone else is doing. So it's very easy to connect the dots on that and go, hey, I see an opportunity here. I see a gap there. I see something here. And you can begin to shape that point of view and be able to go beyond your fence line and say, hey, we're tight knit over here. We've gotten this squared away. Here's what we see. Here's what we think. But by the way, we're adjacent to you and we're touching this and we see this and that and we could help you. That's going to move the needle. And I thought that was a really, really nice conversation, a piece of advice from a C-suite executive.
Yeah, I think that's excellent news. And in fact, that's what
I'd love to see at the exec summit too.
Yeah, in the sessions that I talk about, working across the different areas, part of that conversation is what is that adjacency for HR when HR owns payroll? What is the adjacency for finance? What is the adjacency for global business services or business operations or IT? Yeah. And in fact, I think Jason's right on the money there. Only I would go a step further and say, I think you have to develop that touch point for each of your major stakeholders in the organization so that you know exactly how to message to each of them based on their priority.
Point of view, start with one, start with one.
Yeah.
You don't have to bite off the elephant.
That's
Get
right.
out there with one and start
That's
that.
right.
What a great, I'd love to see that at the exec summit in the future. Why not bring in a panel of a CMO, a CFO, a CEO, whatever, and they can be from the same or a different company, but bring a COO actually would probably be better than a CMO for payroll. I'd say the frontline worker, I'd say the CHRO, and I'd say the finance officer and the CEO. Bring them and let's hear what they want to hear from payroll. What would they be interested in having a conversation about? What is value added in their world? What isn't value added? What does payroll being strategic look like to them? I think that'd be really nice to see in that panel in the future is someone talking to us about that.
I think you and I, we've talked about it forever, so we ought to just figure out how to do it and then figure out when and where we need to.
You know what? Maybe we're going to do it on this show. Maybe we'll go get our own C-suite and we'll do that. But no, seriously, that's a great show. Maybe we need to do that and we bring on a CEO, a CFO, a CHRO, and a COO, and I can get them. You can get them. We can all pitch in one and I'll get some good ones.
Yeah, let's stop waiting for a conference to do that. Let's just do it.
No, yeah, that's a show. We're gonna do that. That's a great idea. We're gonna call it I'm gonna figure it out. The C-suite boot camp for payroll. There you go. So maybe our fresh hater can steal it from us or something. Did you see our hater, Julie? We have a hater. I love it. Hey,
I don't know. I kind of liked, was it Julie Devlin that said, no, they just had the scale backwards.
They meant to rate us number one. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. We're not perfect, but we sure do have fun. And we really are hoping to share the kinds of information and insights that everybody...
We're not only not perfect, we have no idea what we're doing. Let's just be honest with you. This has all been literally, I mean, if to say it started in a garage, it started in a garage, man. I mean, a laptop in the middle of nowhere, I think we started doing this. So
I venture to say it started when we figured out we were never going to probably work at the same company at the same time. And we just wanted to make it happen ourselves.
Yeah, we're going to force it to happen. Yeah. But no, that's cool, Julie. Well, look, it was great seeing you. We don't get to see, and I feel like every time we see each other, we're doing this. We're like flying right by each other, you know? So we've got to have a Pete and Julie summit where
you want to know what's funny? I didn't, except when we were taking pictures with other folks, you and I never got a selfie together. Even though we're like, we do that. We
didn't all that. We didn't get one selfie. Long. Damn it.
No, we did get one, I think, with Anne-Marie Smee over at the Payslip booth.
Yes, Anne-Marie V.
With somebody else, right?
Okay.
But one of these times we got to get our act together.
Yeah, well, it'll be all right. Next time. We'll get it next time.
Sure enough. Well, I think if for anybody who missed it, hopefully this gives you a little flavor of what some of the topics were. It really was, an energizing, I think, experience for everyone. I heard that coming out of everyone's mouth as they were heading home and making their travel plans back. And
next year's Nashville, right, Julie?
Yeah. Next year's Nashville.
Apparently that's the most attended one. Everyone loves that one, apparently. So,
really?
Well, I can't wait because it's just up the road from my house. So I'm not 3.5 or so hours here from Atlanta. That's our Vegas here. I don't know if people know that.
Well, there aren't that many places where you can hold a truly large venue, right? So you got to bounce around the same usual suspects. I'm just glad it's not Vegas.
Hey, I wanted to ask or tell you about this. How cool was it? I brought our stickers. We brought our decals to give out some HR and Payroll 2.0 decals.
I'm almost out, by the way.
I was, that's great. That's what they're for. And thank you so much to everybody who came up to us, that recognized us, that talked to us. But Julie, I was so impressed with how many people that when I gave them, they already had heard of us.
Yeah.
And they were like, and I was like, well, you can still have a sticker, but that's cool. They already had heard of us. So I was shout out. Thank you so much for all the listeners, man, who stick and stay with us.
Listen,
I appreciate you.
Hopefully many more folks have had a chance to meet us. I know it's always helpful when you and I are in the same room because then they put 2 and 2 together, right? When they see us together.
Yeah.
But if you've met one or both of us, honestly, like we really do watch and listen for your feedback, for what the heck you want to hear us talk about. And so, now let's get more and more of that feedback and that conversation happening 2 ways, guys.
These episodes, not only these episodes, I mean, aside from my research, aside from my experience, aside from yours and my conversations, Julia, with what you're doing with buyers, aside from, you mix in what I hear from buyers, but all those moments that you guys talk to me, it's making an impact. I wrote this in my post. I mean, I don't want to get emotional about this, but we're making progress, right? Like I look across that room and all of those vendors are winning and everybody out there attending is winning. The practitioners, we're making progress. We're getting SVPs. We're starting to get, aligned to better parts of the organization. People are getting transformed and they're not just, Julie, what's cool? I thought it was cool that there's a couple of folks who I would argue, I was like, wow, you've arrived. You know what I mean? Like whatever that means. But I was like, obviously we know that's not the case. You got to keep going. This is iterative. It's a diet. It's a lifestyle. But there's a lot of folks who are really doing it and they're living this stuff. And I think what's great is we have companies who are starting to look past the payroll image of the past and perception of the past and start to invest and start to say, look, we want payroll to be a significantly fortified, de-risked, high quality, high value, impactful part of the organization and not just getting kind of drug along by its hair, down the road. So man, it's the industry is really thriving and that's not by accident. That's because we're all working very hard. So thank you for everybody that takes even two minutes to talk to me. Your contribution, it does. I hear it and I do take it with me to help
and I
persuade
would say
these vendors.
The cool thing about payroll is it is a community and we're doing it by helping each other. Everyone that we speak to, Pete, is genuinely leaning in and helping or interested in sharing their experience. And so that's why we start to see, I think, these congresses where there's so much more interaction and energy. It's because, you've maybe already spoken to someone and you're meeting them. Or I found myself introducing, person after person that I knew to another person that was a new friend, right? That I was just meeting. And so that's the way that we thrive and grow together. And that's kind of the spirit of what, we've been hoping to be a part of, if not, maybe create or nudge in the right direction.
That's all we're trying to do here at this show, right? I'm just trying to say, hey, there's, let's just shine a light on the positive. What's coming? Who's doing it well? Who's learned something from bumping their heads? Because we need that to learn, and it's fine. And look, I said this probably 1,000 times at the show. I know I said it on The Source by Daily Pay on some of the episodes. Never, ever, ever should you suffer in silence in this industry. Somebody somewhere is going through the same struggle, challenge, question, conundrum. I promise you it's out there. Just get out there. Get out there on LinkedIn, get on your Facebook, call a friend, email me, email Julie. We'll get you to somebody. I promise you, there are so many Slack channels now. There's so many Reddit groups. There's so much out there. There is no reason to suffer in silence. You can trade info. And that's what makes payroll so cool is the community, but also just all the variables we're dealing with. There's no one payroll that's the same. It's all different, right?
You wouldn't think it, right? Folks think that payroll people like sit in the corner, in the dark corner and like type a bunch of numbers and stuff. That's not us.
Yeah. They can't, man. Payroll can't sit. They got to run towards danger. It just is what it is. That's why I think it was easy for me to go from the Marines to bringing in payroll, because payroll are Marines, man. They're badasses. They can handle themselves anywhere. And they get it done. They get it done no matter what the mission.
All right. Look, I think we're still a little punch drunk on Payo, so we better wrap this up.
Julie, I had no less than 3 naps yesterday. I am not kidding you. I had 3 naps.
I think I'm going to go take one now.
I know. I need one now. Well, it's always great to see you and great to see everyone. If we missed you at PayCon, we'll catch you on the next one.
And if we saw you, oh my God, thanks for being there. Yes. It was awesome to see so many of you in person.
Yes. Shout out Payroll. We love you. Take care, everyone.